Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, good night, wherever you are. Hi, my name is Marilyn Shannon, and this is the Breaking Free Show, and I am really delighted to be here with you and spending time, and I am so happy you've chosen to spend it with us. We will offer you a terrific show today, I know. We've got a lot of things to talk about conscious parenting, conscious guidance, conscious discipline. Oh my God, can you just imagine? So just stay tight. We'll be right back. I just want to introduce Amnon. Good morning.
Good morning, good
Oh,
afternoon.
good day, good evening, whatever.
Good
For us,
afternoon.
it's afternoon.
Yes, for us it's
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good week so far?
Good week so far. I'm in actionable action. I am getting things done.
All right.
It feels good, it feels good to make the most of all your time. And that's what I'm doing. I got a lot of things I want to accomplish in my life, and time's not standing still as far as I know.
No, it doesn't.
It does stand still sometimes when I really need it to stand still. I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but sometimes when you are late and having to get somewhere, maybe time stands still so you get there on time. I don't know. It happens sometimes. I think we can play with time. But anyway, it's really nice out here in Raleigh, North Carolina, Cary, North Carolina. There's no snow. I can see the tulips. Things are starting to bloom, so it's a wonderful time. Anyway, so every week, we come and we really love to share as much as we can so that we all can break free in one way, shape, or form, or another. And it's really great to be able to do it together. So I want to just mention to you this show is about all of us. So I welcome each and every one of you to call in. This is a personal invitation to call in anytime you want at 919-518-9773 if you can are on a landline or a cell phone, or you can certainly connect with us on Skype voice, and that is computers, that's plural, 2K voice. Anytime during the show, you got a question, you want to know something, you got a comment, we want you to. Please feel free. And also, you can chat with us if you just put your name in the little kind of box line underneath near the video, to the right of the video. You can take part in the chat, and there's already several people in there. So we would love to hear from you in there as well. So let's get on with the show. I want to introduce to you Kim Hughes, who I met quite a bit, I don't know how many years ago, but I met Kim quite a long time ago, and she is here today to talk about conscious discipline. I love that term anyway, and about transforming, our relationship and how we work with our children. So whether you have kids, you know kids, you work with kids, or you just simply love kids, this show is going to be for you. So let me introduce Kim. Good morning, Kim.
Good morning, Marilyn. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm doing terrific. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Well, it's a pleasure, and I got a glimpse of a YouTube video that you did, and I was almost in tears just feeling the enthusiasm that you felt. So I wanted, I'm really happy to have you here, and I wanted to be able to discuss this. So tell us a little bit about who you are, so everybody gets an understanding of where you come from and why this is something so extraordinary, and how come you are somebody who's doing it.
All right. Well, thank you for that opportunity. As you mentioned, my name is Kim Hughes. I come to you from the booming metropolis of Wake Forest, North Carolina. I am a 32-year veteran in the field of education. I have worked with kids all the way from infants all the way up through middle school. Most of my time, however, has been spent working with children in the pre-K and kindergarten arena. During that time, I have really enjoyed working with children that might march to the beat of their own drum. Those kids who may be a little quirky. Um, some folks happen to think those are kids that have challenging behaviors, but for me, as well as with conscious discipline, behavior is communication. What brings me to you today is that when I was a classroom teacher, I was lucky enough to be in an inclusive classroom where many of our children had some special needs under the auspice of mental health issues. And it was during that time, probably in the early 2002, 2003, that I realized that I needed a little bit more information to be the best teacher that I could be. At that time, I happened to have the grand fortune of attending a national education conference where I got a chance to hear Dr. Becky Bailey. I'm sorry, once again, Dr. Becky Bailey. And she is the founder of and the brilliance behind Conscious Discipline, which will be our topic today.
Kim,
And
I'm going to show. I'm going to show a picture of the book.
Perfect.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
Yeah, the first.
Perfect.
Yeah, we have a slide show, so I'm going to show the first slide with the book.
Okay,
right?
great. Let me know when it's up.
It's up.
Okay, great. So this is Dr. Bailey's new expanded revised copy of Conscious Discipline. She wrote her first book in 2000, 2001. And in the last 15 years, as brain architecture and research has moved along the continuum, as well as our knowledge about how to best support human beings so they can respond when the world does not go their way, rather than react from the lower centers of our brain. As that information changes and we grow and learn, we want to make sure we get that out to folks.
Okay, so let me just interrupt you 1 second.
Sure,
so
yeah.
you said that you were working with kids who would dance to a different drummer.
Yes,
I think
ma'am.
a lot of kids today, without a label, just whether they're creative, whatever, they dance to a different drummer. So the information you're going to be privy to today is information that fits for almost any child today, because a lot of them dance to a different drummer. So that's really, really important. Kim, there's a diagram to the right of the book.
Yes, and that is one of our logos. And you'll notice that the center is a child with a heart, because we're all about the fact through love that we can guide children and any human being to be the best that they can be once we're able to manage our own inner turmoil. So Conscious Discipline, we like to say that it works from infants through in-laws. It doesn't really matter what age and stage of life that you're in. It is helpful in your personal journey, so that, as you like to say on your show, we can break free. But I began my journey really working with using Conscious Discipline with young children. It was helpful for all of the kids that I had in my classroom, but particularly for those kids with special needs and whatnot.
So we have a PowerPoint. So you let me know when you would like us to pull up the next slide.
I will do it.
Okay, perfect.
Absolutely. And so basically, as my journey continued, I spent some time learning from Dr. Bailey, and I applied more and more Conscious Discipline into my classroom as well as my personal life. And I saw this unbelievable transformation happen within the minds, bodies, and souls of not only the children I worked with, but also their families.
So do you have a specific story that you can share?
Well, you know, I have so many stories. You know, what I found when I worked in the program that I worked in the longest amount of time with Conscious Discipline is that we had many children that had been in many different programs before they came to ours. They had been politely asked to leave many different preschool programs because of a lack of self-regulation. So I can remember, and I think you might have heard when you looked at the video, the one child that really resonates so much with me is a little guy named John, who came to me. And John was a guy who, when I had met somebody at the local mall and they said, I hear you're getting John next year. And I said, yeah, we're real excited. And she said, have you met him? Because I don't know you'll feel that way when you actually meet him. Well, he was a wonderful opportunity for me to grow and learn and become a better teacher and a better person, because of the fact that once he got into a classroom environment where he felt safe, and that safety had to do with making sure we had visuals for him. We made sure we did a lot to help him learn how to compose himself when the world did not go his way. We also had a lot of what we call school family activities embedded in the classroom, where he was able to both emotionally and physically connect and share space with his peers as well as his teachers. And when he had that foundation of feeling safe and feeling this sense of connection, so he felt safe and loved, oh, Marilyn, he just blossomed like you've never seen. It was an amazing opportunity to watch the power of conscious discipline in action. His parents were intrigued and they came in and asked questions such as, tell me about this special kind of breathing that we like to call a star breathing, which I will show you in just a little bit. Um, they started asking questions because when he was upset, he no longer would have these huge temper tantrums. He would just basically say, Mama, I need you, help me be a star. And what he would do is he would give a smile, he would take a deep breath, and he would relax. And with doing that 3 different times, he was able to begin to move from a child who would erupt and explode to a child who still had some strong feelings, but he learned how to manage those feelings.
You know, it's interesting because so many, and I see it a lot in boys that grow up to be young men and men were not given coping skills to be able to know what to do. I don't know if you found while you were in the classroom or now, do you notice any difference between the little girls and the little boys in how they cope or what they need? Do you notice any difference?
Well, there's been all kinds of research that's been done. Michael Gurian, to name one of many people, have done research on that, the difference in genders. And of course, you see disparities in terms of genders. I can say that one of the things that I really encourage folks to think about when you are really looking to support the growth and development of males is to think about that they need to get up and move. One of the basic brain smart principles we have in conscious discipline is the best exercise for the brain is exercise. And so many times, because we have so many females that are teachers, we forget the need of not only boys, but also girls to get up and move and to really embed hands-on active learning into our classrooms.
So you see that as a big difference is for the boys is getting up
That's
and moving
one.
around.
I mean, and the other thing too, little girl. I mean, think about it when when you connect with a female versus a male. When I happen to meet my friends, it's a big hug. We yak and we talk. And little guys, they meet each other. It's like, ooh, it's like, it's more about really not as much about the language as it is the actions. And I think in classrooms, I see a lot of that. I also know that regardless if you are a male or a female, that what's really helpful for all kids is to make sure that we do a little bit better, much better job of providing visuals so we show and tell kids what to do.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. We all have 2 ears and 2 eyes, but only one mouth. And I always tell teachers and parents if we would look and listen twice as much as we talk, that maybe we would have a lot more information in which we could better support both the children we parent and those that we teach.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want us to pull up that next slide with the
Yeah,
pyramid
let me
yet?
tell you a little bit because I think it might
Okay.
be really helpful for our audience to really hear a little bit about what conscious discipline is all about.
Okay, so should we pull it up then?
Yeah, pull up
Okay,
the pyramid
let's put up
slide
this.
that I have there.
So conscious discipline is a comprehensive self-regulation program that combines the social emotional learning of students, emotional intelligence of adults, and discipline.
Right. So we really are looking with conscious discipline. It's not one of those things that you just do every once in a while. We look at life as an opportunity to weave the many lessons of conscious discipline within, with the 3 goals that we want to have, human beings that are socially and emotionally secure, and that starts in the classrooms and in homes, so that our kids learn you have to be a friend, to have a friend. They learn it's okay to have strong feelings, but they learn proactive ways to be able to articulate how they feel. We also want to make sure that adults practice what's called emotional intelligence, which basically means I know how I feel and I'm able to move forward in a positive way. And we want to make sure adults and kids really are disciplined, and discipline is really taking yourself from possibly reacting and having more of an unconscious response to really thinking about through your behavior by putting your body on pause and making a conscious choice that's going to best serve the purpose in front of you.
I think it's interesting because I think it's important to explore this word discipline, because we think sometimes that we're saying, "Oh, you've done the wrong thing," but what we're talking about here is being disciplined to make the choice. Being conscious to make the choice. It's like I'm disciplined to drink water. it's that kind of discipline, and having parents and children, as Kim is referring to, is being on the same page, so that it's so important for it's hard to work with kids if the parents are not on the same page,
Exactly.
don't understand the same tools and strategies and the whole philosophy of why this even matters, why emotional learning, why does this even matter? It's so important. I can't even imagine that, people don't know.
Well,
Yeah.
and Marilyn, if you put up the next slide, which you're going to see a iceberg. Do you see that slide?
Yeah.
So I think it's really referring to exactly what you've mentioned. For us in conscious discipline, what we can't help but notice is that as adults, we tend to focus on that tip of the iceberg, the behavior, if you will. And what we invite you to do is to really look at the cause of the behavior so that we're able to really understand that under the water is really the catalyst for why the behavior is happening, the cause, if you will. And it's funny, Dr. Bailey will say that the tip of the iceberg is not what sunk the Titanic. The captain of the ship saw that. He steered around the iceberg because he didn't know that there was all that ice under the surface.
Right.
And if adults, when they looked at discipline, did exactly what you just mentioned and realized discipline comes from the opportunity to teach and really understand what skills are missing so that we can create environments so that children are able to gain those skills.
Right.
And I also like to say that what's underneath the water is the fact a lot of us, being adults and children, don't really have the self-regulation we need. So when the world doesn't go our way, when something happens to push our buttons, then we tend to react because we don't have that self-regulation. So we all can benefit from this
Right.
idea that we need to figure out how do we manage our own internal feelings, because what we know with conscious discipline is it really is our internal state. What we think is going to really cause, be a direct dictate how I'm going to feel, and that's going to dictate how I act. So
Well,
that's kind of,
yeah. The interesting thing is, and I was just writing about this, that emotions travel faster than thought.
yeah,
So, and it is definitely I mean, it's a quote. I may not be quoting exactly verbatim, but it is a quote. So that means that before you have a chance to have processed the situation, your emotions will zoom. And then you are processing it from the zoom as opposed to what actually, before the zoom.
right.
So it's very important. And those emotions, once you get the heart involved, changes.
Exactly. So we say that heart and also the opportunity to pause, basically be very conscious and take a deep breath so that you can compose yourself. That helps to change that zoom back so that you can really look at your internal state driving behavior with a cause rather than just focusing on the behavior, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're doing. I love the
Well, thank
work.
you.
Yeah. I mean, I love the idea of this, of conscious anything. I have
But
to
I'm
say,
with you.
you know, and I think and I know you probably, I'm sure you know this too, and a lot of people out there, when you speak this way, the way you're speaking and what you're teaching, people know. They know on a certain level, deep level maybe, they know that you are talking to that part that knows. And they may not know yet how to bring that to the surface, but you're talking to the knowing, even in a kid. I mean, I have a 3-year-old grandson. It's very interesting to talk to him consciously.
Hmm.
To they he can reason enough to understand certain
Right.
things in discipline, and and how he's supposed to behave or learn or grow or treat other people. He knows. And I think it's just, the more we share this stuff, the better, you know our future adults will be, and the human race in general. So I love what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's interesting, yeah, because one of the things that I really love about conscious discipline is it's really based on what we know about the brain, and which is what we just talked about. The way that I feel internally is going to be the catalyst for how I behave. And we have a really neat brain state model. I don't know if this is a good time for us
Sure.
to share that with the
Yeah,
audience, or if you want to.
you're the director of the PowerPoint.
Well, there you go. Well, we could even see. You said you had some people that had called in that were interested in maybe chatting with us. I
No,
don't
I
know
don't
if that.
know. We haven't had anybody call in yet, but we'd love to have them.
Okay, so
919 919 518 9773. Or you can Skype in with us to computers, that's plural, 2K voice, that's a number two. So if you're by your computer somewhere in the world and you want to know about conscious discipline, you have a question about your children, from anywhere. And this type of um, resource is good wherever you're located. So please feel free to give us a call if you have a question, a comment, anything, or on Skype or on the phone. No, we haven't. We don't have any calls yet.
okay, well, I
Yeah,
misheard you. Then I apologize.
yeah, no
So
problem.
let's kind of talk if we can, and you and I can have a conversation about your 3-year-old grandchild. One of the things that I see a lot is that a lot of adults, when we're talking about behavior, they fail to remember that behavior is really communication. And so we have a choice as an adult if we want to look at that behavior and try to figure out what that child might be missing, or maybe perhaps that child is in a place where they really can't tap in the skills they usually have. So when you think about your 3-year-old
Mm.
grandchild, or even think of yourself, when something happens that we don't expect, maybe it could be for a 3-year-old, you go to the grocery store and you see your favorite kind of cereal and your mom says, no, you can't get that today. And or as adult, you run into somebody and you're real excited to see them, and you notice that they turn around and walk away before you've gotten a chance to say hi. We're going to react to that. It's going to be a negative reaction. We're going to behave in a way because we either don't feel safe or we don't feel connected. So with conscious discipline, we have all kinds of what we like to call brain smart strategies that help adults so that we can create environments where kids feel safe and they also feel loved, so they're able to get into the higher centers of their brain, so they're actually able to learn new skills.
I think that's very interesting because you really we comment about it, that they're in somebody else, he's in somebody else's house or whatever, but you really, you just took it a step deeper in the explanation of of not feeling safe, and how he wants to react to something, but he's not in his home or in a place that he feels safe, so his reaction is compounded by where he is.
Right,
So I think,
exactly.
and the communication is really key. So I want
It
to ask you
really,
something. How
sure.
much training did you have to go through or want to go through? Were you already, when you found this, were you already, you must have already known how to work with kids in general, or about coming from the heart, about the power of emotion and understanding emotion, and it's more of a holistic approach to just to teaching our children. So you must have already had that in you in order to recognize that this was so valuable, I would
Well,
think.
I think that that's a good point. I know that many of us, when we tend to parent the way we were parented, and as a teacher, I know that I also taught the way I was parented. And many of us came from home lives where it was more of a fear-based
Mm-hmm.
discipline approach.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know that as I have two of my own children, I know that as a parent, I really wanted to be able to share power with my children and have that loving, respectful relationship that certainly had limits and boundaries. But I really wanted to discipline through love. And in my classroom, I did exactly the same thing. I always felt that there was more to the story, and I always tried to see the story from the child's perspective, understand, if you will, what was going on, so then I could have a better picture of what was missing so that I could help and support.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think, and it is all about the heart. And matter of fact, our home office of conscious discipline is called Loving Guidance. For that reason, that we need to guide from the brain, but it begins with the heart.
Right.
So I think it
Right.
is much of what you're saying is that, as both a mom and a teacher, I know that behavior is, changing someone's behavior really has to do a lot with the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know from studying brain research that when we form those relationships and those human connections, we wire the brain for new neural connections.
Right.
And what's really cool is that you have kids who now, because their brain's rewired, that they're actually willing to do things differently. And it also supports them in impulse
Right.
control. So, yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
definitely starts with a relationship.
Absolutely. And we have a caller, so there's some comments I want to make to what you're saying, but I do want to say
Perfect.
hello to who's calling. Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Debbie.
Hey, Debbie.
Hi, Marilyn. Hi, Kim.
Hi, Debbie.
I just want to affirm everything that Kim is saying. I have used conscious discipline in my preschool for about the last 4 to 5 years. I learned quite a bit of it from Kim and from Becky Bailey, and it has changed the whole flavor of our preschool in a positive way. It is such a positive way of being empathetic with children and understanding the difficulties that they go through as they're growing and developing. And so I just wanted to say thank you to Kim and thank you to you for sharing this, and getting the word out, because it has made a huge, huge change in our preschool.
Debbie, I want to ask you something, and I really appreciate your calling. And you prompted me to want to ask you a little bit further because I taught special ed for a very short while. I just felt like I could, and I did, and oh my God. And I wanted to teach with love, but it was really difficult because the support wasn't there. But what I'm thinking is, based on what you just said, I'm curious, first of all, how many years did you teach before you found conscious discipline?
I taught about 28 to 30 years before I found conscious discipline.
Oh my goodness gracious. Then can you tell me how it changed your career?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, it makes a teacher so much calmer in the classroom because you're much more confident that you have the tools and the techniques that you need to deal with whatever type of personality comes along. I'm a grandmother now, and I use this on my grandchildren. I wish I had known about it when I was raising my own children. It's not contrived at all. It's very honest and real. It's an authentic way of dealing with children.
Yeah, it's an authentic way of dealing with anybody. So,
Absolutely. Works on husbands too.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it helps with, I mean, when somebody feels good about themselves and they can see their personal growth and they feel good. I mean, come on, when you feel good, you can learn and create just about anything.
Absolutely.
So I really bless you and Kim and everybody out there that's listening that is taking these approaches because the wiring, these neural pathways, when you get to be older, you got to make new ones. But when you're,
Absolutely.
when you can start off, it's never too late, right? But when you can start off with a young person, making a better pathway, you don't have to change. They're not etched in stone yet. So,
absolutely. And you have the opportunity to give them all of these skills that they need and they can use throughout their lives.
Absolutely.
It's not just for school, it's
Right.
for life.
It's for life. Are you still
So-
teaching, Debbie?
I am directing a preschool now.
You're directing. And are you a private or a public?
I am a private, a church, faith-based.
Church-based. So it's a little bit easier to instill these disciplines, techniques in a private setting. I'm hoping that this is spilling over into the public as well.
I hope so too. And the consistency of doing this in all of our classrooms here at the preschool has made a more positive impact as well. And I would love to see that happen in the public schools.
And I'd love to know. You may not know, and maybe Kim does, but even statistics that say, for your preschool, the kids that go on to public, elementary school and further are like 90% of your kids go into a public setting and are just doing like so great, you know?
I don't know if Kim may have some
Okay.
statistics on that, but I would certainly think that they have those skills of developing self-regulation from working with us over the past, 2 or 3 years.
Sure. Well, thank you, Debbie. Is there anything else
Thank
you'd like to?
you.
Is there anything else you want to add?
No, just thank you, Kim.
Oh yeah,
You
thank
bet.
you, and thank you.
Debbie. Good to hear from you.
Okay,
Thank
take
you.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Thank you. And do we have another
Meryl.
caller? Okay, we have one more caller. Hello.
Hi, Marilyn. Hi, Kim. Hi, Amnon. It's Chris.
Hey, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, hon. I had to call in. Because not only to give a parent perspective about conscious discipline, but also just a humongous shout out to Kim. Kim, I wanted to read a testimonial that I wrote for Kim. Now, Kim was our son's preschool teacher, and she was also our daughter's. You were involved in the preschool setting, but not as much as with our older son. But Kim has been part of our family's story for many, many years, and every time we talk about Miss Kim, we always have a big smile when we talk about her and think about her. And before I go ahead and read a testimonial that I wrote for her a long time ago, which is still very appropriate today, I wanted to point out that conscious discipline works with children of all abilities and from all walks of life. And the unique aspect of the preschool that my children attended was there were 9 typically developing children and 9 atypically developing children. And when you had an opportunity to sit in and volunteer for the class, you couldn't tell what category any child was represented by, and that's the magic of conscious discipline, that all the children were working together, they were supporting each other, and they were coming together as a school family. So it's important that people don't walk away and just think this is a preschool classroom management strategy, family discipline strategy, just for special needs kids. It is for all kids.
Right. All kids, all people.
All kids, all people, even husbands, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So if it's okay, I'll go ahead and read our testimonial that we wrote. We've been extraordinarily blessed to have Kim Hughes teach our son in an inclusive preschool where half the children had an identified physical, social, and or emotional need. And along with her team, Kim has been able to transform our son from a child who, at the beginning of the school year, sat with his back to the circle, to a student who was actively participating in that same circle by year's end. From the first day, Kim calmly and patiently established a sense of safety and security in her classroom. Her ability to address conflict in a loving and empathic way laid the foundation for many friendships and instilled a strong sense of community and accountability among the children in the class. She never let a teachable moment pass, even if doing so was the easy or more convenient thing to do. Recently, we overheard her say that when she hears another teacher observe that a child is difficult, even unteachable, Kim is the one to reach out to take that child's hand, and then she says, I want to teach that one.
Thanks, Chris.
Oh, I just want to cry. I just love Kim Hughes and conscious discipline and what it's done for our children and our home and increasing our confidence as parents. I think Debbie said it very well that, having those tools as a parent, there are great phrases that Dr. Bailey has incorporated into her work. So after some repetition and looking at the materials, you're like, oh, okay, do you want to go brush your teeth like a frog, or do you want to go brush your teeth like a lion? And the kids are like, yeah, I want to go like a frog. And you feel like you are the best parent in the whole wide world.
So it appears, so not only let's reiterate, not only is this process for children of, doesn't matter, all children, but I also think that no matter when you find the process, it's good. Whether your children are 10, or 15. I think,
yeah.
there's a doorway in, and maybe Kim can explore that some with us. But I think that no matter who you are, if you're listening to this and you have issues or no issues, if you have no issues, what a phenomenal way to bring up your children. What a phenomenal, what a way to be able to expose them to something that they will have for the rest of their lives. And if you are having issues with your children, this is a way to, and I say this relatively quickly. I know it's going to happen quick because when you go this way, it just happens. There's just no way about it. So, Kim, Chris, thank you for bringing that up. And I want to. Did you have any other questions or any other comment that you want to make before we go back to Kim?
Oh, I was just wanting to put an idea out there. If we could talk a little bit about the importance of rituals. When I asked my son what he remembers from his years at preschool, he said, "Oh, I will never forget the butterfly kisses."
Okay,
So
good.
if you want to take that one,
Okay.
I'll let you talk
I'm
about
glad
All
to.
right.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks,
I got
Chris.
that ritual.
Okay,
Bye
All right,
now.
thanks, ladies.
Thank
and
you,
we'll
honey.
talk to you
Great to
later.
hear
all
from
right.
you.
So we've got the slide here. The brain. Is there anything you want to refer back here to the brain before we go
No,
on?
let's just go with what Chris said because
Okay.
she's planted a seed. So let's just kind of go with I'd rather be organic and have things bubble up from where
Okay.
people want information. So let's talk about rituals, and then I also want to go back to the conversation you had with Debbie about private versus public and what's happening and what happens to kids that are in any kind of setting that practices conscious discipline for a year and what
Okay.
happens to them down the road. So
All right.
we'll talk about that
Go
in a
right
few
ahead.
minutes. But okay, so here's what I want you to do if you're watching. Let's first of all talk about in conscious discipline. I'm going to show you a book. All right. I'm holding it up. It is called I Love You Rituals, and it was written by Dr. Becky Bailey. And in this book, she gives us a plethora of activities that allow us to truly connect with our children. Marilyn, do you celebrate birthdays at your house?
We celebrate anything we can celebrate.
So when you have birthdays, tell me a little bit about what the special things that you do at your house when people have birthdays.
Well, when my children were younger, we used to make, you know, parties. Sometimes they
Uh-huh.
were themed, sometimes they were just fun. My girls, I would dress them up in costumes. And then when I got remarried and my sons were more athletic, and I had sons, they wanted climbing wall parties. They wanted all the heavy duty, parties like that. Now they're older, so we get together and we have dinner, and brunch or
And
something like that. But yeah.
and you do that pretty much every time a birthday comes up. So you'll have some kind of a special time that you can get together.
Oh yeah, and myself included. I mean, we have parties and we do our best to make them easy and different. So we
Nice.
keep doing them, but we make them, and there's a lot of us. I mean, we have 5 children between the two of us, and we have spouses and all that stuff. So yeah, we like to have fun.
You like to have fun, and what those things, when things happen over and over again, and every time a holiday or birthday rolls around, you kind of expect those rituals, right? And so what would happen if all of a sudden this birthday people decided that they weren't going to get together for dinner? Is it fair to say that that would be hard and difficult for you?
Oh yeah, I'm not happy when they don't come.
Exactly. So you look forward to it. Those rituals are the glue that cements your relationship. And what we know is that as human beings, that we all are relationship seeking. And so one of the opportunities to help adults really bond and connect with kids are something about the I love you rituals that Chris alluded to. Now, what Chris was talking about was this opportunity when kids weren't at school, we would talk about where they were, and we would put those children in our heart, and we would think of them with loving thoughts, and then we would release that love to the world as we wished them well. And then when they came back, one of the children, who was our welcome back helper, would have a little tiny puppet, if you will. It was a little butterfly puppet, and they would just fly it over to the child who's just returned and saying, "You've been gone and you've been missed. Where would you like your butterfly kiss?" And that child would be like, "Here," or "on my head," or maybe an air kiss. But they looked forward to us celebrating the fact that they had returned, but also the power of noticing that I wasn't here and you're glad to see me. So, I mean, that was that butterfly ritual that Chris had talked about. And that brings the same joy to a child in a classroom situation as does a birthday party or dressing up in costumes or having dinner for a birthday. That kind of ritual bring to one's family. Because in consciousness, when we talk about in a home setting, it's a connected family. What are you going to do so that you can really share quality time and lift each other up and realize that we're all in this together, that we all have gifts and we want to share those gifts. And in a classroom, we call it the school family. And so it's the same kind of thing. We make sure that every child has a job so that they feel that sense of belonging and they know intrinsically what does that feel like to make a contribution and help and support another human being.
So I want to ask you something, Kim. How much of your day as a teacher is spent teaching this? Is it is it entwined in?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's that tapestry that I alluded to in the beginning of the show. Everything is entwined. You know, we look, and I was laughing when Chris was saying that every moment is a teachable moment, because isn't that what life is all about? And in conscious discipline, we're always looking for that moment to really showcase and focus on something that someone has done to be helpful, to make the classroom or the world a better place. You know, you picked up the pencil so that he had something to write with that was helpful, or you scooched over a little bit so your friend had space. Way to go. And really, in conscious discipline, we talk about what we do want kids to do. We focus on what we want so we get more of it. And we're very clear and concise with the language we use, so we paint a picture of what the child is doing to be helpful.
So you really, as a teacher, as an educator, as a parent, you really do have to stay conscious to those moments that are those teachable moments, or the moments that are of praise. You know, it's not just, you know, it's wow, that was wonderful that you picked that up, as you know, and or you know, I appreciate how you did that. You have to be really conscious and be looking.
It's not so much about catching them being good. I mean, a lot of people have that misconception. It really is painting a picture for the child in their head so they know what helpful looks like, sounds like, and feels like, so I can do it again. You know, for me, in the world we live in, before I even practiced conscious discipline, I was concerned that we were raising a nation of praise junkies. You know, kids that it was the look at me kid, the child who really needed that adult validation to be able to move forward. And I was looking for something that would allow kids to have that internal motivation, that intrinsic motivation, if you will, to do the right thing, but not to get the praise of the adult because it just felt good. And that's what conscious discipline helped me with.
Right. And then I guess also it's, and you tell me, it's also pointing out when the child does something that look how somebody else felt. You know, look what Susie, look how good, look how you know, you picked that up as little Susie. She really, I mean, what do you do? What do you say?
Well, you know, we have this like formula that we use when people are first starting this, where you're going to use the child's name. Like, let's say that you're talking, the example you just gave maybe as a home example, and let's say that Susie had dropped her bottle and big brother Ted picks it up. So as a mom, I'm going to say, Ted, you picked up Susie's bottle so that she was able to have something to drink that was helpful. So what we're doing is, the first thing, we're using a child's name so that we're able to connect with them with eye contact, which is a big part of really creating powerful connections with kids. We're then saying how they were helpful. You picked up the bottle. Then is the part that you're getting at. How was it helpful? You're defining for them, it's helpful for your sister Susie because now she's able to drink on her own. And so it moves really from this idea where we are creating, as I said before, the praise junkies with all this good job, or a lot of times in classrooms I coach, I hear a lot of thank you, good job. where if you were to close your eyes and I were to say, good job, you wouldn't really know what I was referring to.
Exactly. It means I mean, it really doesn't mean very much.
Well, and people do it the best intentions,
Sure,
but us, our
sure,
intention is to teach.
sure.
And if we want to teach or coach kids, we have to give them, paint a picture for them of what they're doing so they're more likely to do it again. And
Right.
that is one of the skills we use in conscious discipline called noticing. And we like to really talk about that noticing, as you heard in my description, is clear and it's concise and it doesn't judge. Because what we know is that we want kids to learn to do things for themselves rather than only to please people. We want kids to know what shared power feels like rather than that fear over model we talked about briefly, where if I am raised with a fear based approach of discipline, I'm going to be more of a power under kid, which is that people pleaser. And for me, those kids, when they grow up, they're not always pleasing adults. They begin to please their peers. And I wanted to make sure my children had the tools so they knew what shared power felt like. And they knew how to say no, or I don't like it when you take my truck, or I don't like it when you talk about my friend that way.
Yeah.
So they're very clear in finding a voice that can be heard,
Right.
and they can advocate for what should be right in our world and be the person I want them to become.
Right. And of course you mentioned, and of course the relationship. And when you do this process, you are in a present moment and you are
Absolutely.
connecting in that moment because this is what connection looks like.
Exactly. And
So,
it's
yeah.
funny you said that because there's four elements that we have when we're really bringing these rituals to life. And one of them is the eye contact that I talked about. The second is what you just mentioned. It's being present. It's being there. The brain really, when a child gets a hit of your eye contact, that's just showering with love and with positivity, when I am connecting with you for even 5 seconds rather being distracted and looking all over the place, when I'm able to bring touch into that connection. And it can certainly be physical touch, but also that emotional touch. Once again, the heart that you talked about earlier, Marilyn. And then also, is it playful? Is it fun? So it's the eye contact, it's that touch, it's that presence, it's that playfulness. When we have those four elements, what we know is that we create stronger connections and relationships with those we love.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, I did heart math. I don't know if you're familiar with
Oh,
heart
yeah.
math, which is a similar. It's similar. I mean, it works with it is biofeedback. It's all about the heart. I mean, it goes into a lot of things. So the philosophy is certainly in alignment with what I was trained with. So I think it's very worthwhile, and I would love to see if we could put the book on our website under our favorite things. So maybe we
Please
could talk
do.
to you about that because this is one of my favorite things is loving our children and having them feel it. I mean, my grandson, all he says to me, he calls me Grandma Mawilyn. I just had to give a brief bio for a show I'm going to be on tomorrow on Google Plus, and she said 4 to 5 lines. So I did that, and then I on the bottom I wrote, and in some circles I'm known as the listener. In other circles I'm known as Grandma Mawilyn because that's the connection that is so important. It's so important to have those connections with our kids. In general, they're going to stray so much better when they feel that connection.
Absolutely. Can I share with you a
Sure.
fun I love you ritual that some of your folks
Yeah,
might like to
go
do
right
either
ahead.
in their classrooms
Yeah.
or maybe with their own kids? So I want you to think for a minute about the old nursery rhymes. Remember, there was an old woman who lived in a shoe.
Mm.
Do you remember that? There was an
Yeah,
old
yeah.
woman who lived in a shoe, and you can
Yeah,
say it
she
with
had
me if
so
you
many
remember
children
it.
she didn't know what to do.
Yeah, she, so then what happened? So there was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children. She did not know what to do, right? She gave them some broth without any bread. She whipped them all soundly and put them to bed, right? Not very warm and fuzzy. And let's just face it, that gal's a little controlling, right? And so what Dr. Bailey did is she realized that the nursery rhymes have some wonderful opportunities for us to help and support something that the brain has that helps us feel safe called the arousal system.
Mm-hmm.
And in those, and what we know is that steady beat that we find in those nursery rhymes can help to re-regulate towards a healthy arousal system. You know, there are a lot of positives, but the message that we get from that one isn't quite what we want. So she has flipped it around in the book I Love You Rituals that I showed you a few minutes ago, and she's changed the words to these. And tell me how you feel about hearing this one. A wonderful woman lived in a shoe. She had so many children. She knew exactly what to do. She held them, she rocked them, she tucked them in bed. I love you, is what she said. And so we teach our teachers, but also our families, to share that with the child, where you'll take the child's hand, and as you're saying the rhyme, it'll go like this. You'll take the child's hand and you'll massage it. A wonderful woman lived in a shoe. She had so many children. She knew exactly what to do. She held them. She rocked them. She tucked them in bed. I love you, is what she said. Can you imagine the power a child feels when someone they know and love is sharing that experience? And what happens to that relationship when you have that opportunity to connect in that profound way?
Well, for the first time in this show, I have no comeback. There is nothing to say.
It's amazing. And I will tell you that, as Chris said, conscious discipline works, as I said in the beginning, from infants all the way up through in-laws. It works for children with special needs, typically developing children. It works for adults, so that we have a language, and it's a new language. So for me, it's a second language, almost like learning Spanish. So I constantly have to learn from my mistakes. That's another one of the skills and structures that we preach, is the power of mistake making. We call it taking an oops. And when we make a mistake in parenting and maybe lose our cool, just taking a deep breath and saying, oops, I'm going to try it again. And almost having that instant replay and talking to the child in a calm, composed way, so the child can see that we're learning too, along with them.
Right.
So there's lots of great skills that we learn through conscious discipline.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been using oops and toots for years.
Oh,
And
there you go.
You know, and I have, people in different circles that I'm in share their oops and share their toots, because they're all relevant. We learn from our oops, you learn from our toots, everybody else does. And the more the more we apply love and play to these things, just like breaking free, the more it's no different. What you're saying is exactly what we want to do here, is to apply play and love and compassion and fun to freedom and breaking free. So Kim, I want you to share, when somebody finds you, or why they should find you, and when they do, what they will get, and what you can offer, and the work you do.
Oh, thank you. I think that, and we can put up that information in just a minute for those that are visual, but I currently do coaching. I mentor in classrooms. I always work with families. I train a lot at schools like Debbie's, who called in, where I'll go in and work in the classrooms, supporting the teachers after I've done training, and then I also work with their families. But across our great nation, we have many, many conscious discipline certified instructors. We have a wonderful website that I really invite all of your listeners to go and visit, because we have great resources on there. You can certainly find all the different certified instructors, and we have them here in the United States, but we also have international certified instructors. So if you're looking and you're not in the Raleigh area and you need some support, we have that for you. We also have lots of free resources in conscious discipline. In order for us to be conscious, we have to be composed. We have fun ways of teaching kids to breathe so they can calm themselves down. We started with the STAR. We have other visuals on there to help and support children in developing composure, but it always begins with adults first. So if you are looking for somebody to help you begin your journey with conscious discipline, so you begin to develop some of our brain smart strategies so that you can respond from the highest centers of your brain rather than boom, go down to the lower centers of the brain and react. Anybody who is a certified instructor can help you here in the Raleigh area. I work with lots of families and schools. I also travel across the United States on behalf of Dr. Becky Bailey and go into, I'm happy to say, many public schools. Many of our public and private schools have discovered the good news about conscious discipline. And the best news of it all is that I'll have teachers say, but I'm only one person. What one person in one classroom, is that going to make a difference? Well, if you cast one stone in a pond, does it not create ripples?
Right.
And I want to say to you, Marilyn, before I say goodbye, that I had a young lady in my classroom 6 years ago, and I stayed in touch with her family, and her mom contacted me recently to say that her daughter had learned at school about a lot of the outer turmoil that we have in our world in the Mideast and whatnot. And at dinner that night, she was having a conversation with her family, and she said, Mom, the answer is conscious discipline. If this world just knew about conscious discipline so that we could help people feel safe and feel loved, it would be a place where we thought, so we were making good decisions rather than ones that people get hurt. She goes, it's a place where people learn how to be helpful, not hurtful. And isn't that what we want for our world? So out of the mouths of babes, Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a small group of committed people can make all that difference. So know that it can just take one family, one classroom, one school to create a better tomorrow. And that's what conscious discipline is truly all about.
I want to ask you one quick question.
Sure.
It's elementary. Is it in middle schools, high
It
school,
is.
everything?
It's kind of really cool. We're seeing it now. It started with early childhood, and those kids go to kindergarten, and then those parents start asking conscious discipline, where is it? So we are now in elementary schools across the United States and abroad.
Okay.
We're in middle schools, high schools. We have great videos on the website where you can see it in action in every one of those settings. We're now seeing it in colleges and universities. A lot of teacher prep programs are putting it in, so when their students leave and have their own classrooms, it's their first language and they understand the power of conscious discipline. We're starting to see it in nursing homes. We're seeing it pop up in corporate America. My daughter works in the entertainment industry, and her boss wants me to come to teach the
Kim,
skills. And
let me ask you something on the chat. Is it in Philadelphia? I'm sure it is. In New York,
Actually,
I'm
it
sure.
is. It's everywhere. We don't have any certified instructors in Philadelphia, but there's a gal in Maryland, not too far away, Anne Moriarty in Maryland, close to DC area.
Perfect.
So yes, it is.
Good. So, we'll have these show notes put together, and they'll be on the MarilynShannon.com website. So for those of you that are listening, if you want to catch some of what was discussed and you missed it, by all means, go to MarilynShannon.com and you'll see all the show notes from today's show there. You'll see links to the books, and we'll see about posting the books on the Marilyn Shannon website. And I am delighted that you came today, Kim, to share, and it's wonderful. It's a very needed conversation, one that is near and dear to my heart. And for all of you out there, it's been a pleasure having you join us today. If I can be of any service, please let me know. I do a Google Hangout every Thursday called Skywire, which is strictly about listening and applying listening to many areas of our life, and how we listen to life, how we listen to perspectives, how we listen to everything. So look on Google Plus. I'm going to be on another show tomorrow about renewing and the spring. It's called the Holy Shift Show, and that's going to be at 2 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern Time. I'll be a guest on that show. And I'm looking for stories about conflict. I'm writing a book, or a series of books, so if anyone has a specific story about a relationship, about conflict, please write to Marilyn at MarilynShannon.com. Or if you have a concept about conflict, I'm including those as well. So please let me know that too. And Kim, it's been an absolute delight to have you here. Hopefully
Thank
you'll
you.
come back
I've
and
enjoyed
visit
it. Thank
us
you for having
again.
me.
Yeah, I'd love to have you come back. And for all of you out there, thank you for spending your time with us. It's been delightful. And wish you a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Health In with Debbie Bruck, Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Lessons of Vietnam with NCBVI members, The Tanya Love Show, Your Healthy Pet with Gisela DiCarlo. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by Atomus.com, makers of quality video recorders and converters for professionals, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.